everybody, my name is Luke Mar and this is HauteLeMode, and today on HauteLeMode we are coming to you with our Haute Couture Spring 2021 Day 1 reviews. So with that, let's just get straight into it. First up is none other than Schiaparelli. Daniel Roseberry's Schiaparelli exploded with excitement, joy, and exploration this season, in an attempt to challenge the idea of what couture is and break away from the 1950s notion many of us have. In reality, it makes so much sense, as Elsa Schiaparelli closed her house in 1954, so why not continually explore Elsa's heritage from the 1930s and 40s? The opening look is a black molded breastplate in black that is stunning. We saw this earlier back when Kim Kardashian debuted a green breastplate as a holiday look, and giving sneak peeks of his collections on celebrities is something Daniel Roseberry has done before. The breastplate is gorgeous, with a six-pack which speaks to the modern age's obsession with bodies and perfect fitness. For those that have been pelted with this image of a perfect physique, wanting a six-pack might be a desire, but not always an option available. But with this, anyone can have one, and nobody would be the wiser to know what's underneath it. My issue with many of these molded breastplates is that designers like Tom Ford and Daniel Roseberry never have been able to find the proper skirt to match its energy. And today, Roseberry finally solved the equation. A pink satin bow sits not at the back, but at the front, and a black satin skirt is trim and slim and allows an almost unrealistic shape, which makes sense because it's Schiaparelli. It's also no doubt a reference to Saint Laurent's iconic pink satin bow dress from his fall 1983 Haute Couture collection. Saint Laurent was obsessed with Jean Cocteau as a young man as well, and almost went into theater design because of Cocteau's influence. And Schiaparelli worked with Cocteau in the mid-30s to create two evening jackets which are some of her most iconic, that are plastered with poems by Cocteau on them. I mean, listen, if Saint Laurent was inspired by Schiaparelli and Cocteau were hanging out, and Saint Laurent was also inspired by Cocteau, like, it makes sense why we're, putting that all together. To me, it ties together so many of those references that I don't believe it is a coincidence. But at the same time, it looks so absolutely dashing that from the beginning, I think that this collection is off to a great start. A black dress that has a amoeba-like keyhole cutout is fantastic, and the gold teeth that pipe the cutout as well as the bedazzled roots are daring and scary and yet thrilling. A brown leather six-pack bodysuit looks tough and firm and strong and weirdly plays on the current love of bodysuits. The collection takes a more surreal turn when a decapitated torso bag and black platform boot with prosthetic gold toes are styled with it. In reality, it's kind of disturbing, but at the same time, I am obsessed with them. The cloud-like creations that are Roseberry's Schiaparelli signatures is turned into a jumpsuit, which makes it more relatable, I guess. But the corset over it seems ill-placed. I won't say I'm 100% on board with the cloud bra top that comes next, but at least Roseberry is not staying stagnant with his exploration of the style. A bulky-bodied six-pack cocktail dress is fucking miraculous. To take this very idealized masculine physique through the use of delicate and most likely painstaking beading in this shocking Schiaparelli pink is such a wonderful juxtaposition. It's really deep and raw, and I also can't help but love the thigh-high gold toe shoes. A contrast-stitched shirt and cargo pant set is smart, as the pockets are jazzed up with gold locks. And a lock handbag in that signature handcrafted gold definitely does remind me of Yves Saint Laurent's work with Claude Lalonde. A simple black jacket is full of gorgeous gold embroidery that does have that feeling of old school haute couture, while a black dress has dramatically white ruche sleeves that might be apt for less embroidery-oriented clients. A nose ring bag and eyeball sunglass play into the accessories Roseberry has been showing since his earliest collections. A black dress has a draped white skirt that feels Egyptian in a way, but maybe it's just the gold toes that's making me think like that. And the definition of carrying the whole team on your back takes form in a pleated jacket with black cloud puff that makes it seem like the model is literally carrying a human body on her back. A black and gold embroidered mermaid gown is striking, while a pink gown that uses the model's hoop earrings to hold up the dress is the kind of creative thinking I deserve from Schiaparelli. It's what I want, it's what I need, and evidently I got it. The breastfeeding baby dress is very camp. It's there, and I will give somebody $5 if they wear it on a red carpet. Whoever it is, I will Venmo them $5, I promise. The long fingernail rings are really stunning, but I do think that putting them on a non-black model was a wrong choice. I mean, I might be speaking out of turn, and you can tell me in the comments if I am, but the history of acrylic nails and their significance and origins within the Black community needs to be recognized. Black women like Ayanna Williams and Christine Walton were Guinness World Record holders for the length of their nails and what that achieved, and were probably made fun of in the process for it. And I appreciate that that aspect is being cast in gold here, but I think honoring the history and cultural significance is also very much so necessary. A sequin dress at points lays flat, but at others is manipulated to create a 3D texture, which is interesting, while a blazer remains open and covered in squiggly embroidery, all stemming from a gold tooth. A gold bust casts the model's breasts, which is no doubt a reference to the origin of the breastplate trend. Saint Laurent's fall 1969 Haute Couture collection, which was a collaboration with Claude Lalonde. Listen, I know that the man started collaborating with artists because he liked Schiaparelli. Sorry, that's my theory. A simple black bodysuit exaggerates, or at least I believe it exaggerates, the model's calves, thighs, and butt, and I think it's brilliant. But do wonder if this touches on the fact that in Western society, black women's bodies are subjects to a lot of judgment. I know people are going to say, stop bringing race into everything, but firstly, he's an American designer, so he understands what's going on in our country at least. But fashion designers work on a world stage, and noticing that every masculinized style was on a black model, while the one feminized breasted breastplate was on a white model, does make me wonder. Whether it's intentional or not, it's something every designer must consider and look at much deeper. The last look takes the cloud style and creates an almost angelic backdrop for the wearer, and it's again another interesting take on a Roseberry signature. Overall, the collection was really lovely, deep, thought-provoking, and explorative. I dare say that this is the best Schiaparelli collection we have seen from Daniel Roseberry, and I hope to see more collections like this in the future, so next up is Iris van Herpen, and her Spring-Summer 2021 collection was titled Roots of Rebirth, which I think is very poignant given the circumstances of a global pandemic. The collection takes inspiration from fungi and how it is an important part of the world, yet doesn't always get its dues. The collection starts off with an ombre gown that moves from a very deep blue to a sheer white. The shoulders are curved in and almost create a conical shape, which seems like oyster mushrooms that grow on trees in a flat and half-moon shape. There is a type of oyster mushroom that is blue and does sort of ombre, which could be a reference point. But either way, Van Herpen's signature ombre is a sight for sore eyes. I'm not always a fan of Iris's winding draped styles, but this pleated copper style is stunning. The shapes seem unnatural to me through like a fashion lens, but there are very few things in the natural world that are actually ever perfect, and so I'm warming up to gowns like these. And it's probably an easy red carpet moment because while it is complex, it isn't avant-garde enough to scare red carpet goers away. Iris's work in recent years is very transparent, light, and flowy, but this look is very opaque, dense, and stiff, and I don't think it's a bad thing. I almost was a little gobsmacked to see a satin like this on the runway, but the way that the laser cut pieces were attached to the dress allowed them to have a firmer stance and tap into a more debutante ball gown aesthetic we don't normally see. I also think the fact that the motifs, whether on the torso or piping the godets and ruffles, is transcendent and have an almost Charles Jamesian feel to them. A sheer dress is appliqued with silver laser cuttings, which feel like vines that snake up the model's body. And in the same effect, the strips of mint green fabric that cascade down the dress are almost held down by these little vines at certain points. A sheer cocktail dress is running with veins of purple and red and piped in layers of pleated sheer fabric that mimic the shape of chanterelle mushrooms and use pleating to mimic the gills or underside of those mushrooms. Something I've come to realize is I've learned more about science from reviewing Iris van Herpen collections than in any actual science class I've ever taken. A stunning geometric gown then arrives with sleeves that are TLTF. The tiny triangles are probably laser cut, then hand appliqued, and each have a motif that creates a motif of its own. The triangles also ombre from small to big, which gives them a fading effect that is interesting as well. A purple gown feels like a bird of paradise, but doesn't fulfill much. It feels almost rudimentary for Van Herpen, but at the same time, back to basics might be the direction the brand is going in because of the pandemic's effect on business. I'm not saying its effect on their business, just in general, the fashion industry is going back to basics in a lot of cases. Another feather-like dress appears in an almost symmetrical style, but again, not groundbreaking. The ombre of blues is back, but in an asymmetrical sleeve style whose pleats flow effortlessly. Very rarely do I call an Iris Van Herpen dress sexy, but its asymmetrical hem and use of the sheer pleated fabric just adds a desire that's not usually seen at IVH. A sheer dress seems to be embroidered with lined motifs that move and groove almost like an extraterrestrial being. Pleats pour out of the torso and shoulders to create a waterfall of texture as well. It's also fascinating to see these wave motifs that have been created throughout the pleats with the use of heat manipulation, almost like a curtain being pulled up that folds in on itself. The embroidered veins, as I'll call them, arrive in yellow, red, and burgundy until pleated fabric grows like mushrooms would towards the hem of the dress. It creates a mermaid or trumpet style in its own way. It's just less of a streamlined transition. A black satin gown doesn't use 3D applique like the previous one. Instead, it uses 2D applique, but it's reflective. So when it catches the light, it shines, illuminating the motif on it and creating the sheen to the fabric that satin by itself would not be able to produce. It's a much subtler way of seeing Van Herpen's techniques, but it's very effective when shown in movement. The first ever plus-size model walks the IVH runway in a red-veined, pleated, and oyster mushroom style. It's not groundbreaking in terms of construction, but Iris Van Herpen's customers seeing that their bodies can look great in her garments certainly is. A purple column gown has 3D appliques of what look like circles cut into 3 clusters to create a harness and skirt on the actual dress. It's hard not to see the influence of the mushrooms here. As the model walks, the appliques pop almost like mushrooms releasing their spores. Another feather-like dress is gorgeous as it differs from the previous versions. Here, its stems are long and thin and pop into a more thick shape only at the end, which feels tentacle-like, but not a big slimy tentacle, but like a light, delicate one. I don't know anything about tentacles though, so I don't know what I'm saying. The membrane motif on the actual dress also helps to present the dress as being made out of an almost different life form skin. A gorgeous beige gown is transparent and full of that curved motif that is synonymous with Van Herpen's work. The gown isn't revolutionary, but classics done well are always welcome, in my opinion, and that Iris Van Herpen belt? Neat. A silver and beige feather gown is the way to update the style in a much needed manner. It's reflective and fun and out of this world. It's a little bit, you know, forward thinking. A white and yellow cocktail dress uses the half moon shapes we've seen throughout the whole collection, and only here have I really realized that it's probably a reference to bark mushrooms that grow on trees, except here it's just sort of growing on the models. The yellow is a beautiful color and the sharp geometric yet flowing appliques are lovely. The finale look takes the long feather-like pieces from earlier and makes them mute. The styles bounce in a way almost like the flap of a bird's wing, and the collection ends. I won't say this was a groundbreaking nor revolutionary outing for Iris Van Herpen, but I do think it was a rebirth of classics for her, considering she was forced to take a season off. New styles were explored and her techniques were the focal point, and I won't say I was disappointed. Now, let's get into our final show review of the video. Maria Grazia Chiuri explored the idea of tarot cards this season for Dior. The main reference was a Visconti-Sforza deck created for the Duke of Milan in the 15th century, adorned with gold. It's quite well known that Christian Dior himself was a believer in psychics, mediums, and tarot, as he always had one give him a reading the day of each couture show. It's even said that Madame de la Haye told Dior not to travel to Montecatini where he died of a heart attack. So like, you know, maybe it was pretty good that he was doing it. Maria Grazia has also referenced tarot cards before during the Cruise 2018 show, where she found inspiration in Mother Peace Tarot, a deck created in the 1970s. So with that, let's explore this Dior Haute Couture collection. The collection starts with a white lace gown that has green branches and fruit motifs scattered on top. It's not hideous, but again, not anything worth mentioning, and considering it's a first look, it should be worth mentioning. A light blue gown follows with bursts of gold embroidery throughout and a sheer capelet at the back. I think the gown by itself would have worked better, though. I want to say that Maria Grazia has been watching Bridgerton on Netflix, but Italian Renaissance dress does sort of have a high bust line. I mean, that's where the Empress Josephine got the high bust style. I think the jacquard is beautiful and it's no doubt beautifully constructed, but I think the bust line doesn't look as refined as it could. But the way that the bottom of the gown looks like it's almost been bleached is quite interesting. The top and pant set could have been nicer had both sides of the top been pleated or not pleated. But I don't know what it is with designers thinking that only doing something to one side of a garment is such a revolutionary experience for the rest of us. The style actually could be cool, except the fabric feels so stiff and it doesn't graciously work with the sheer top underneath. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I want this to work because I think designers reworking the suit is always an interesting process. And Maria Grazia's focus on wearability for women is something I have come to actually, yep, I'm gonna say it, admire, especially at a house that was founded with the exact opposite principles. A jacquard pant is lovely, and to be honest, I think Maria Grazia tapping into Italian history is really enjoyable. The Renaissance is so rich, and being able to explore it as an Italian must be a nice dig through history. I think this top, which feels like a guipure of some sort, is also sweet with its vines and leaves. Together, I don't think they work, but separately, I can appreciate them. The Dior signature gray is here, but the way that this is styled makes it indiscernible, which is very unpleasant because it looks like a big old blob of gray. Another jacquard dress is lovely, and I do believe the sheer top underneath actually is the best way to style it. Like, it's pretty and young and fun and youthful, and like, I'm not mad about it. There's a lot of things to be mad about. This is not it. This bouffant jacquard gown is undoubtedly gorgeous. The shape is as dramatic as her Dior predecessors, and trimmed in that gold thread would give it an element of movement in motion. I find it an interesting dichotomy to see a big gown like this from Maria Grazia Chiuri. It's a garment that is ridiculous and big and part of a history of forcing women into a narrow box, but at the same time, the real simpleness of it in terms of cut, and even the way that the underarm is slit to allow freer movement, makes a stand against the previously mentioned characteristics. Maybe if that's the route that we went in with Maria Grazia, we could actually get somewhere. Our first bar jacket arrives in yellow. Its lines are stunning, even down to the way it is folded onto itself to create a dramatic flare without forcing the wearer to have to shrink their waist. It just feels like a intelligent way of going about this design, which I'm not sure we have always gotten. And I think the jacquard skirt is a lovely additive. It just works. It's fun. It's different. It makes it a little bit more exciting. The buffoonery begins though. I think the embroidery of the torso is actually lovely, but it's ruined by the ridiculous sleeves and a skirt that makes a true mockery of the work that no doubt went into this entire collection. I don't understand the Barnum and Bailey experience going on for whatever reason in that skirt. A lovely blown up floral motif is ruined by the construction of the gown's bust. Its gathering is yucky and disrupts the otherwise beautiful motif for literally no reason. And the bust's oval shape is also very unwise. It just does nothing to accentuate the body. It's just there. Unpleasantly. It's like that one person at the holidays that you wish never came. I wish Maria Grazia would expand more on her use of pleating. Something exciting would be so much more preferable than a simple and subtle pleating that we've seen time and time again from her. I have no idea where Maria Grazia's customer is supposed to realistically wear this jacquard robe, but I don't care. It's gorgeous. It's a beautiful reference to the textiles of the Italian Renaissance and the kind of imagination and fantasy a Dior designer must possess. Like, where has this been for the past 4 years? Where? And then we have to deal with looks like this. We go from really high highs to really low lows. Either give us a full circular bust piece that exposes side boob, or just make the dress in full gold pleats. But there is no reason for that black sheer piece of fabric to exist. A jacket with slashed sleeves and maxi skirt in a blue that's woven with gold threads is interesting. It's intelligent looking, and I'm not mad about it at all. Then there's this cape that is big and bold and kind of ugly. I'm sure lots of time went into weaving it, but at the same time the result is a bit cartoony and not in a good way. This jersey-like weave is back and in a smart take on the crop top jacket and pant with sheer shirt underneath. It's a real no bullshit style, and I can actually see Dior customers eating it up. I'm gonna need an Advil. Like, I can't, this is too much. I don't need this emotional trauma. Thank you, Maria Grazia. An embossed bar jacket is meh, although it's interesting to see it in this context, but this crepe-looking dress underneath is quite nauseating. Combined, it's ugh. I'm sure this gold dress full of animal motifs has some sort of significance to the Visconti-Sforza deck, but it's ugly, thus I don't care. The gold sheer caged gown is lovely. It's ethereal, it's interesting, and the amount of work that's gone into it is evident, thank God. This is the bare minimum we should be expecting from each look in a Dior collection. Even if it's simple, it should actually look nice. Hideous ball gowns will not be tolerated. What about this feels modern? Or even desirable? It's clunky, it's awkward, and creates a less than desirable silhouette. It's just, A shiny pink gown is again just boring. There's a lot that could be done with these looks, but it seems they're just left to be uninteresting and styles we've seen already. Sometimes you don't need space fillers. It's okay. The black ruffle, the waistline, and the print down the front, I can't fathom how this was allowed on set, let alone allowed to be shown to the public. Then we get this sheer gown that is stunning. The way the shearing highlights the bust, and then on top of that the sleeves that are puffed, and the flecks of metallic thread throughout catch the light in such a gorgeous way. And it's nice. It's pretty, it looks good, I can deal with it. Again, it's moments like these that make me really appreciate Maria Grazia Chiuri's work, but pieces like these are always few and far between. And that's my problem. That Goupert-esque style comes back to top a torso on this finale gown. I do think the previous look we discussed should have finished out the collection, but this is a sweet look regardless. But again, like, where's the excitement? It's a finale gown. To be honest, I have such low expectations of Dior now that I didn't hate this collection. I want to say there were more nice pieces than there were not, but I know that that's not true. But I probably could count the nice pieces on more than two hands, which honestly is a step up at this point. I also could just be going COVID stir crazy, so I mean, who knows? But with that, that is the end of the first day of Haute Couture reviews. I'd love to know what you guys think in the comments down below, and you know, keep your eye out for the next video because it's coming very, very soon. So with that, thank you so much, and TTYL.